A beacon of smoke. City of sails. The city of 1,000 sails, billowing Sirach, the sapphire. The Hakima said it was founded by Guerrera, the passionate opponent of slavery, driven to build a better world. Brightly coloured tents extend Sirach out beyond its small cluster of stone buildings that make up the heart of the city. Sails of all shapes and sizes fill the sheltered bay, guided by twin towers kept on either side of the bay, along the approach to the harbour. The Salt Guards, designed by Menno, plan to armour the Bay of Khazar against the Grendel. Each of the two halves of the Salt Guard is equipped with a powerful engine of war, and garrisoned by skilled marines and corsairs, who ensure the towers are always ready to respond to any threat. Menno believed the Salt Guard would make it impossible to assault the city of Rainbow Canvas by sea, but he was wrong. Vengeance as a burning flame. The first watchers who spied the Grendel armada approaching assumed they must be seeing things, mistaking a great wave or a blanket of fog for the wall of mast and sails. Red, green, yellow and blue, the sails and the mast banners announce what must surely be the entire Grendel navy speeding from the southeast towards the Madruga coast. They are low in the water, their hulls are packed but presumably with warriors rather than goods. Some of those ships have been seen recently in other ports across the bay. Through spyglasses, increasingly panicked watchers make out ships from Yellow Sail Golden Winds and the Green Sail Tempest. Both navies had anchored off imperial cities in the last year, escorting merchants, their crew coming ashore to eat and drink in the places of Sirach, laughing and joking with the freeborn, frequenting the markets of the Sapphire, all under the guile of a 2-year peace treaty. The treaty that has just run its course. There are not only Grendel ships among the Armada. As they get closer, a warning bell echoes across the city. The glasses pick out the Assaveans warships flanking the main force. Ballow's Grace, Leaping Bull and Windhammer. The warships that destroyed the Isle of the Justicars and slaughtered the people of the Cimmerian. With them, a scattering of other war vessels far from the home in the distant west. It is clear why they're here, and were the Grendel alone, it would be bad enough. But the presence of the Assaveans filled those with an inkling of what's to come with a terrible foreboding. Salt, stone, iron net. Massive as the Armada is, it must contend with the Salt Guard. Trebuchets and catapults are armed and ready, launching great chunks of stone towards the attacking ships. A cheering goes up as one of the lead Grendel ships, a green-sailed vessel of the Tempest, is smashed into nothing but sea foam. Bronze sigils simmer and flicker across the wall of the Twin Towers. Imperial magicians have used a potent autumn magic to magically reinforce the Salt Guard, with power acquired from the realm of the Forge Mistress. The siege engines are loaded by towering bronze constructions drawn from the city of the fire and stone. The magical sigils of fire, stone, strength ripple across the chains and nets as they race across the harbour mouth. The mariners themselves wait nervously, the sweat beads on their skin, not only due to the supernatural warmth and enchantments it's brought with it. A single warband of freeborn soldiers has come to Sirach to protect the city, taking up its place in the walls. They are not the only unexpected defender. When the runners are sent to the city proper to warn the people, the Commonwealth Embassy responds by sending its entire garrison to support the Salt Guard. It's hard to imagine that 50 grim-faced warriors dedicated to the common good will make much difference in the face of an entire Grendel armada, but they will come nonetheless. They march through the streets as the bells and the people hurry to gather their families, and a few people take hope from their willingness to defend the billowing city. While the people are afraid, they are freeborn. They do not bow their heads to tyrant, be that human or orc. Those with battle experience grab weapons, kept in cupboards, and strap old pieces of battered armour on. Corsairs and sailors take to their own ships, ready to try and engage any invading vessel that might somehow breach those defences. The doors to the pardor of the kindled flame are thrown wide to any who want to take refuge beside the children behind the walls of white granite. The Grendel do not know any of this, of course, or perhaps they do. There has been talk for some time of espionage ring in Madruga, sponsored by some spy master of the Broken Shore. Surely no freeborn would sell their loyalty to the Brass Coast to the Grendel, no matter how much they were offered. Surely. It is clear the Armada is prepared, though, for the Salt Guard and the harbour defences. Several of the leading ships of the Tempest have taken great stern metal rams attached to their bow, just on the waterline, designed to tangle and rip those port defences. They use catapults on invading ships and conquer the hail of stone and javelin missiles thrown over them. The Assaveans in particular hold back, maintaining a barrage against 2 Salt Guard towers, chipping away at every magical reinforced stone. But the Balor's Grace and the Leaping Bull and the Winding Tear, named in honour of the blasphemous gods, they are massive compared to the Grendel vessels that surround them, but they're still surprisingly manoeuvrable. With triple banks of oars, they're able to evade all but the luckiest hit. Then, without warning, fighting erupts across the harbour itself. Confusion reports begin to spread of both human and orc making pinpoint strikes at the winches and pulleys that control the web of steel keeping invading ships from the harbour. Treachery from within Sorok itself. Out to sea, perfectly timed to coincide with the attack against the nets and the chains, dozens of small boats are launched. They strive for the harbour, hard to target directly, manoeuvrable and swift. Some are sunk, many more manage to reach the harbour walls and join the attack on the defences. The fighting spills across the dock itself. Many of the warriors attacking the harbour form a sept of the Lassambrian orcs, with a particular hatred for the Empire. Others raise unfamiliar banners of sharks ringed by lightning. Both forces seem unhinged, in their zeal to slaughter the freeborn defences and capture the docks, breaking the defences and leaving the city vulnerable. Step by step, the defences are forced to retreat back towards the fortress cape of the Salt Guard. The nets and chains fall. There are Grendel vessels in the harbour itself. More storm sharks spilling across the quayside, spilling out into the city, spilling freeborn blood with mad abandon. Canvas makes a poor shield. Not all the Grendel ships storm the harbour. While the green-sailed Tempest and the blue-sailed Simon take for the forefront of the attack, the Golden Winds are pushed up the coast outside the city, unloading orc soldiers covered by the veil of the red-sailed Sarum. The banners of the Iron Gulls are raised. Empire knows the Gulls, veterans of a dozen engagements. They survived the Battle of Solan Doubt. They were the forefront of the invasion of Feroz. They are known to be masters of siege warfare, and the warships of the Golden Wind unload rams, catapults, along with soldiers themselves. Besides them, the Black Eels raise their own standards. They too were at Solan's Doubt. They too are veterans of the war against the Empire. They enter the city from the south, but where the Iron Gulls are more interested in probing the defence of the Salt Guard, the Black Eels seem to be here for plunder and mayhem. In the midst of the two armies, a few hundred Grendel soldiers raise the slightly tattered banner of Governor Raab, who rule over the conquered territories of Feroz in the south. There is a particular grimness to these orcs, and a handful of human mercenaries along with them. Some of the gulls and eels mock them behind their backs as they make haste towards the city ahead of the two armies. They seem especially eager to engage their freeborn defenders. While the rest of the armada is busy invading the harbour, the Sarum and the Tempest switch positions. Judging by the numbers of crimson sails in the Charm, it's smaller than the Tempest. Their ships are newer, showing fewer of the marks of war. So too are the armies that spill from their holds and decks. The standard of the Bone Natulist, a white and gold tentacled spiral beast, are raised. This army is made primarily of orcs, but there is a significant number of humans in their midst. Some are clearly hard-bitten veteran mercenaries, some are keen-eyed youths, but there are also a number of Assavean foot soldiers in distinctive helms with spears and shields. They follow the other land troops in an assault against the south side of the city. Menno was reportedly incandescent when he discovered that Sorok had little in the way of defence against an attack from the shore. Perhaps the Freeborn had felt their position made it inconvincible that there would be a threat from the ground, rather than the sea. There are walls, but they are nearly as old as the city itself, and they surround the heart of the Sapphire, not its border. Sorok is a city of traders and merchants and welcomes visitors. There are defences, of course, but the Salt Guard is the heart of them. The three armies approaching by land are quickly in among the tents and parlours. The canvas offers little protection against the invaders. Falling salt. The Salt Guards fall. Great metal-bound catapult stones chip away at the walls and smash the towers. Under the cover of a seemingly random assault, a squad of battle magicians unleash spring magic against the gates of at first one keep and then barely 10 minutes later, the other, rendering vines erupting across the wooden stone, ripping it apart. The attackers pour inside. Commonwealth and Freeborn soldiers back to back, using every trick that the League architects could think of to make it harder for them to seize the fort. One by one, the engines of destruction on both sides of the Salt Guard fall silent. The garrison is too busy fighting to survive the force of the Grendel Armada. Those ships of the broken shore who are equipped to do so launch barrage after barrage of missile against the two towering Salt Guard. Those with siege engines on their decks either turn the catapults towards harbour defences or disembark, joining the fighting of the docks inside the Guard. At this point, the Assavean vessels move closer. They join the bombardment, but their target is not the Salt Guard, but the city of Sorok itself. They are seemingly unconcerned about crushing Grendel troops beneath their iron shots. It is not clear what happens, but suddenly, after half hour of smashing tents and buildings, fleeing freeborn and small groups of Grendel, the Assavean weapons still for a few minutes. But the damage is done. Swathes of market and parlours crushed along the quayside, flattened and burning. Dozens of ships shattered and splintered. Columns of smoke began to rise, fire flickering in some windows of the Salt Guard. With an almighty groan, one of the Salt Guard keeps begins to collapse in on itself, transformed suddenly into a chimney that sends roaring flames up through the interior. Those defenders, still trapped inside, are no longer battling the invading orcs, but fighting to breathe as the smoke rises, fighting to escape as the fire spreads. As the sun drops towards the eastern horizon, the second tower catches. Those defenders who manage to make it out of the collapsing fortification cough, gasping, wheezing, are swiftly dealt with by the invaders. Fire spreads. With the Salt Guard shattered, the city is easy prey for the immense forces ranging against it. The Grendel have not long had their own way. The courage of the Salt Guard has purchased vital hours for those who can see what is coming to flee the city. With the Salt Guard shattered, the city is easy prey for the immense force raging against it. The Grendel have not had it all their own way. The courage of the Salt Guard has purchased vital hours for those who can see what is coming to flee the city. North, towards Lightsea, or west in one of the bridges across Sorong towards Segura. The Grendel follow. Over the next few months, the invaders spread north along the coast into Lightsea. Everything falls before the Iron Gulls, despite the best efforts of the Hakima and the masters of the Auto Magic supporting the defences. The parlour of Salt and Sand is torn apart, many of the great treasures within looted, carried out of Feroz by the fleeing magicians. At the same time, the Black Eels loot and raid the port towns freely, killing any who try to resist, but seemingly unconcerned about those who wish to flee, unless they try to take their wealth with them. 3 of the Grendel navies, supported by the Assavean warships, assail free landing, assaulting the port towns of the Corsairs. These islands were the first proper home to the freeborn, and for the second time the Grendel sees Atalana, the font from which the entire Brass Coast flows. Midport falls under the charm and the golden sail. The Tempest seizes the shining pillar, that great white and gold tower, familiar to every sailor along the Bay of Khazar, sometimes even used as a symbol of the Brass Coast itself. When a sailor can see the beacon of the shining pillar, they know they are home. After the Grendel take the island on which it stands, the beacon falters and goes out. For the first time in centuries, the shining pillar does not shine. Meanwhile, the Simoon concerns itself with besieging the Isles. The magicians are fighting back, supported by the Commonwealth allies. Contact with the island has been sporadic at best. It is not clear if the entire island has been conquered or what state the grand libraries, arcane academies or students are in. There is little hope that they may still be held out against the Grendel and their allies. There is a great deal of worry about what the Grendel might do with the vast stores of lore contained within. As the winter solace that's the future, and we're not done with Sorok yet. The last sight. Before the Grendel sweep across the rest of Madruga on land and sea, they finish the conquest of Sorok. The offices of the Mistress of the Glass Pardor are looted by the honour guard of Governor Raab of Feroz. Perhaps the wealth they managed to steal here will make up for the fortune Raab lost. An attempt is made on the Pardor of the Kindle Flame, eager to capture those who have sought sanctuary within, eager to carry away the children whose home it is to a life of slavery. When the heavy oak doors are finally breached, they find the place deserted, with no sign of anyone hiding. They have no way of knowing, but the children, their guardians, and those who accept the offer of safety within the walls are long gone. As the flames consume the Salt Guard, 24 friends of the Prince of 1,000 Foes revealed themselves, and the sewer entrance, leading those who would otherwise have been trapped in the orphanage to safety. They're already well on their way to Segura. The same story unfolds across Sorok. Guardian angels, mostly mortal, some decidedly not, reveal themselves and help people escape what is to come. Without their unexpected and most invisible aid, a great many more would have perished and died when the city fell. If anyone bothers to ask, and most people are simply too grateful for the aid, they'd say that they are discharging a service for the Archmage of Spring. They run when they can, they fight when they must, but they never try to hide. They discourage hiding for some reason. While many escape, many more do not. The Grendel take few slaves, but once the city falls, they seem more interested in bearing away its loot rather than its people. The same cannot be said for the Assaveans. Now the Salt Guard has fallen, the warship and mercenaries off to the far west join the conquest of the city. They are absolutely without mercy, killing anyone who comes within a spear's reach. It is those who lead the attack on the House of the Way, one of the oldest congregations in the Brass Coast. They smash the doors and shatter beautiful windows that have blazed in the setting sun for over 200 years, slaughter the priests and souvenirs. Even some of their allies seem a little taken back by the zeal for slaughter by these human warriors from far across the sea. The Assaveans are also the ones who set the fires. Despite the chaos, the Grendel are careful to make sure the city of Nets does not burn. For a day and a night they rampage through Sorok, taking everything they can find, everything they can carry. Then the sun sets on the second day, after the fall, as the armies regroup on the plains outside the city for a march north and west, as the navies withdraw to anchor along the coast. The Assavean warship launches a barrage of burning oil into the city. Another and another and another. The sky turns blood red and glows like a baleful promise. Assavean captains, representing most of the major families, watch from the shoreline. They are not alone. Their soldiers have taken careful selected prisoners, where possible the souvenirs or priests of the way, or demiros of one family or another. 24, no more, dragged in manacles to the waterline south of the city. As Sorok burns, these prisoners are forced to watch, and then, as the fire stretches across the horizon, the final cruelty. The last priest of the golden chains are with the Assaveans, and as a nod from the captains, they murder each and every prisoner. The last thing they see as they are hurled before their time into the labyrinth is the jewel of Madruga, the sapphire, the billowing city, burning. All bar 3 are slaughtered. 1 Erago, 1 Rayquaza, and 1 Guerrera are released once the fires are set to die down, pushed into the surf, discarded like refuse, like jetsam, off the coast of the Brass. The last words of their captor echo in their ears. We were the Empire before any of you petty kingdoms existed. We have no more lessons to learn about vengeance, but we can teach. Game information. Madruga. The Grendel Armada has seized 3 regions of Madruga: Sorok Plains, Light Sea, and Free Landing. As detailed in the Not a Drop of Drink Wind of Fortune, the blight of the Great Grasses remains contained, thanks to the enchantment that has been cast with the prior season. As predicted, however, it is also stabilised in a way that means a region is no longer under Imperial control. As a consequence, with the Freeborn only having a few of the areas, they have lost control of the territories. The territory is thus considered contested, although the senator from Madruga loses their seat regardless. The Salt Guard was overwhelmed and destroyed, but provided significant defence in the slowing of the Grendel invasion. Without it and its enchantment, the Armada may have had sufficient strength to launch a significant attack on the Calva Sand, as well as the 3 regions it did capture. Losses. Imperial titles. A number of Imperial titles have lost power and sources of income. Madruga no longer has a senator. The Mistress of the Glass Pador and the Hakama of Salt and Sand no longer have ministries. The titles still exist, however, and still have the appropriate responsibilities. The Commonwealth Embassy has been destroyed, and the Ambassador of the Commonwealth has lost their ministry, but maintains their other powers. The Commonwealth is likely to have a strong opinion of the destruction of the Embassy in the Empire. Freeborn Flame Mariner is in Grendel hands. The benefits it provides, allowing fleets of the Brass Coast to be upgraded more easily, have been lost to the Freeborn, although it might be possible to regain the benefit if it was liberated. The Empire no longer controls Lysum. This means the Dean of Lysum has lost the ability to codify ritual text, the benefits of the Quiet Annex, and access to their apartments. They remain the arbiter of Imperial law, however. Unfortunately, one of the things they have also lost is the work of the ritual text they were codifying. It is still on the island. The Pardor of the Kindled Flame has been ruined, along with the city of Sorok itself. The devastation is sufficient to give Sorok Plains the ruins quality. Losses. Military. The losses of Sorok has struck a devastating blow to the Brass Coast. The wealth of the Sapphire has been taken by the Grendel and the city itself comprehensively burnt. Furthermore, the Grendel have captured the wealth of the ports in Lightsea and Freelanding, coupled with the losses of the entire territory of Faraz. This means the Brass Coast can no longer support their 3 armies. If not for the Iron Quaint, they would only be able to support a single army. Regardless of the outcome, it is the same. Following the winter solstice, they will begin to decline due to insufficient supply. Assuming nothing else significant changes, the Freeborn will reclaim their ability to support armies once they again control 2 of the proposed coastal regions of the Brass Coast: Freelanding, Lightsea, Khazar Strait, Orosian, or Fortigera. This presumes they remain in control of the Calvasan and the port town of Calvos. If they lose that, they'll need to reconquer 3 regions. The only silver lining in this situation is it won't get worse. A nation is either out of supply or it is not. So even if the Brass Coast loses further territories, their army will not decline any faster. But it might mean they have further to go before they can reclaim the ability to supply armies.